In 1998, a jewellery shop somewhere in London paid scrap metal price for several lengths of empty platinum chain. The person selling them described the pieces as old family items, nothing more. No name was offered, no history was volunteered. Neither the seller nor the buyer understood what had just changed hands. That grey, cold metal was all that physically remained of the most expensive piece of jewellery ever commissioned in the history of the Cartier house. A construction that had once carried nearly 3,000 stones. A yellow diamond at its centre the size of a walnut. Built over 3 years in Paris for a king who believed that enough beauty, worn in the right rooms, could rewrite the terms of power. When the kingdom fell, the greatness was taken apart, stone by stone, with tools and patience and a decision that has never been attributed to anyone. What the London shop acquired was a corpse, platinum stripped to its frame, settings shaped like open mouths, the ghost of a weight that was no longer there. This is what remains when a kingdom disappears. Not dust, not silence. Empty chains, sold by a person who either did not know what they were holding or knew exactly. Paris, 1925. 20 wooden crates arrived at the Cartier workshop on the Rue de la Paix. They were carried in by hand, which was unusual. Inside each one, wrapped in cloth, were gemstones. Diamonds, rubies, sapphires, emeralds, pearls. Not purchased for this commission, not borrowed from another collection. These had been accumulated over generations by a family that had understood, long before the modern world codified the idea, that portable wealth is the only kind that survives a change of government. The man who sent them was Maharaja Bhupinder Singh of Patiala. He was 33 years old, ruler of one of the wealthiest princely states in British India, and he had come to Paris not because he needed jewellery. The treasury at Patiala already held more than most European royal families had seen across their entire histories. He came to Paris because he had a different problem, one that could not be solved by anything already in his possession. The British Empire governed India. It also governed the princely states, not directly, but through what the colonial office called paramountcy, the right to oversee, advise, and, when necessary, restrain. The India office in London kept files on the Maharajas. Bhupinder Singh had his own file, thick with reports about his spending at European hotels, his fleet of automobiles, his purchases at Parisian ateliers. The phrase that appeared most often in those files was excessive expenditure. He was being watched. He was being managed. He knew it. What he brought to Cartier in those 20 crates was not a commission in the ordinary sense. The stones were Indian. The hands that would work them were French. The result would belong to neither empire. It would belong to Patiala, in the form of something that no amount of colonial oversight could confiscate or reclassify, because it had been made entirely from what was already his. The British could monitor his bank accounts. They could not put a valuation on an argument. The craftsmen at Cartier opened the crates and began to sort. Under workroom lighting, the diamonds caught and multiplied the yellow glow of the lamps. The rubies sat darker, denser, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. The task was to build something from this abundance that would not simply display wealth, which any Maharaja could do, but would make a particular case in the language that Paris understood better than any other. The language of what the eye cannot look away from. The design took 3 years. When the Patiala necklace was completed in 1928, it consisted of 5 graduated rows of platinum chain set with 2,930 diamonds and rubies. At the center hung a single yellow diamond, the De Beers stone, 234.65 carats, cut in a cushion shape that held light inside it rather than throwing it outward. The color was not the clear white of the diamonds surrounding it. It was the color of cognac held up to a candle, warm, dense, slightly opaque in the way that very large stones sometimes are, as though the light entering them does not quite know how to leave, a stone that asked you to lean closer rather than step back. The total weight of the necklace, metal and stone together, was somewhere between 350 and 450 grams. Nearly half a kilogram worn against the chest. The 5 rows of chain were designed to lie flat across the shoulders and upper chest, distributing that weight the way armor distributes weight, not eliminating it, but making it bearable through structure. When the wearer moved, the platinum shifted and settled with a sound too quiet for a room to hear, but unmistakable to the person wearing it. A constant, private reminder of what was there. Cartier asked permission to exhibit the necklace before sending it to India. The Maharaja agreed. Some years after the necklace arrived in Patiala, Bhupinder Singh wore it at a reception hosted by the Duke of Miranda in Madrid. The photographs from that period show him in full ceremonial dress, the 5 rows of platinum lying across his chest, the De Beers stone at the center catching the light of European chandeliers. The room around him is European in every particular. The white tablecloths, the tailcoats, the protocol, the careful arrangement of who stands where and what that is understood to mean. All of it is the furniture of a continent that had spent the previous century telling the world what civilization looked like. He stands in that room wearing 3 years of Cartier's finest work, made from his stones, carrying his name, and he is the most formally dressed person in it. The India office, in its reports for that period, continued to note his excessive expenditure. Bhupinder Singh died in March 1938. He was 46 years old. He did not leave instructions for the necklace. There is no record of a bequest, no letter to a son or private secretary setting out what should happen to it. A man who had thought carefully enough about presentation to spend 3 years commissioning the piece, who had carried it across continents and worn it in rooms full of people he needed to impress, did not think carefully enough, or did not bring himself to think carefully enough about what came after him. This is not unusual in people who believe, even partially, that their circumstances will continue. His son, Maharaja Yadavendra Singh, inherited Patiala and its contents. The decade that followed was not a quiet one. The Second World War restructured alliances and economies across the subcontinent. In 1947, India became independent. In 1948, Patiala was absorbed into the Patiala and East Punjab States Union, and officials arrived to catalogue the royal treasury. The inventory was thorough. It listed rubies. It listed pearl ropes of considerable length and documented provenance. It listed emerald sweets, ceremonial swords with gold handles, items accumulated across generations. The document runs to many pages. The Patiala necklace does not appear in it. Not noted as missing. Not listed as having been sold or transferred or damaged in the years since 1938. Not mentioned and then struck through. Simply absent. In a document whose purpose was to account for everything of value that the state now held in trust, the most valuable piece of jewellery the family had ever commissioned is absent without comment. The officials who compiled the inventory wrote down what they found. They did not record what they did not find. At the moment, the inventory was being compiled. Where was the necklace? The honest answer is that no one has established this with certainty. It may already have been in pieces. It may have been whole, in a room the officials did not open, in a case that was not presented for inspection. It may have been removed before the process began, quietly, by someone who understood what was coming and acted accordingly. The silence in the document is not the silence of a deliberate concealment. It reads more like the silence of something that had already drifted, incrementally, out of the category of things that are owned and into the category of things that are simply no longer there. The 5 rows of platinum and the 2,930 stones went somewhere. The trajectory from a Madrid reception room in the 1930s to a London shop counter in 1998 covers 60 years and crosses at least one act of deliberate disassembly. Someone, at some point, removed nearly 3,000 stones from their settings. That is not the work of an afternoon. It requires tools and time and a decision about what the object is worth more as, a whole thing with a name and a history, or a collection of parts that can be moved without explanation. We have never established who made that decision. Sotheby's, Geneva, 6 May 1982. Lot 272, 1 fancy yellow diamond. Cushion cut, 234.65 carats. Provenance, private collection. Estimate on request. The De Beers stone had been out of public sight for more than 30 years. It arrived at the auction without its setting, without its 5 rows of platinum chain, without its 2,929 companion stones. It arrived as a single object with a single line of provenance that said almost nothing. The auction catalogue named the sale, in part, after the Patiala royal family. Someone knew, at some level, where this diamond had come from. That knowledge had been left partial, because the catalogue offered no account of how a stone of this magnitude had travelled from the treasury of a princely state to a Geneva auction room, alone, stripped of everything built around it, with its history reduced to 2 words: private collection. The diamond sold. The thing that Bhupinder Singh had built over 3 years and worn in the rooms where he needed to be seen had by 1982 been separated into its constituent parts and distributed across a chain of transactions that no single document records in full. The argument he had made in platinum and stone, the argument that Paris could not answer except by making it for him, had been disassembled by hands that left no names in the record. In Geneva that afternoon, his stone sold without his name attached to it. Which brings us back to London. 1998. A person carries platinum chains into a jewellery shop and describes them as scrap from a family collection. The buyer examines the workmanship and understands that this is not ordinary material. Word eventually reaches Cartier. The house purchases what can be found, which is the structural skeleton. The platinum framework, engineered in Paris between 1925 and 1928, carrying nothing. What Cartier held was the negative space of something that had once existed. The shapes where stones had been. Links built to carry a specific weight they were no longer carrying. The setting at the center, designed to hold a 234.65 carat diamond, open and empty. The restoration took years. Cartier's craftsmen worked from archive photographs and technical drawings preserved since the original commission. Missing stones were replaced with replicas matched as precisely as the records allowed. The De Beers stone was not returned. It remained in private hands, having passed through a Geneva auction 16 years earlier. The goal of the restoration was not to pretend that nothing had happened. It was to make the structure legible again, so that the story of what it had once been could be understood by someone standing in front of it. But let that be stated plainly. What was restored was a shell. The platinum is original. The craftsmanship is Cartier. The stones are replicas, chosen to approximate what was lost. The heart of the piece, the yellow stone that Bhupinder Singh had carried from India, that had rested at the center of everything, is in a private collection that has never been publicly identified. The restored necklace is an exceptionally precise reconstruction of an object that no longer fully exists. A body without its most vital organ, presented behind glass in a controlled light, in a city that was not a major cultural center when the piece was first made. In 2022, Emma Chamberlain attended the Metropolitan Museum's Costume Institute Gala in New York as a Cartier ambassador. She wore the choker, the separate strand of round yellow diamonds made for the same commission as the necklace, detached at some point in the decades of dispersal and maintained as a standalone piece. On the steps of the Met, in the light of more cameras than any reception room in Madrid had ever held, something that had been built to announce a king's claim to equality with European power became an accessory in a fashion moment. The internet named her one of the best dressed of the evening. No one mentioned Patiala. This is not a criticism of Emma Chamberlain, who wore what she was given and wore it well. It is simply what the passage of a century looks like when it happens to a piece of jewellery. The Maharaja who commissioned it needed the most prestigious house in Europe to look at his stones and say, "Yes, we will build something worthy of this." A century later, the same house placed a fragment of that commission on the wrist of a young American, known primarily to people who had not yet been born when the necklace first disappeared. The cameras captured it. The moment was archived. The name it was built to carry was nowhere in the caption. 3 entries, different years, different cities, one object in its several states of being. Lot 272, one fancy yellow diamond, cushion cut, 234.65 carats. Provenance, private collection, Sotheby's, Geneva, 6 May 1982. Estimate on request. Lot unrecorded. Platinum chains, 5 rows, graduated, all stones absent. Described as old scrap metal from a family collection. London, 1,998. Sold at scrap price. The Patiala Necklace, restored with replica stones. De Beers, diamond, not present. Cartier collection, not for sale. Bhupinder Singh brought 20 crates of stones to Paris because he needed Paris to make something with them that London could not reduce to a line in a budget report. The necklace was not a purchase. It was a case being made in the only language that crosses borders without documentation, the language of what cannot be acquired by someone who does not already possess the stones. The kingdom he ruled is gone. The empire that kept files on his spending is gone. The stones are distributed across private collections on 3 continents, or replaced by replicas so precise that only the archive records in Paris distinguish them from what was there originally. The yellow diamond, that was the whole argument, sits in an undisclosed location, separated from the setting built to hold it, detached from the name it was meant to carry. The platinum framework travels between exhibition venues behind glass. The necklace, that was never meant to be still, that was built to move, to catch light as its wearer walked into a room, to make a point that could not be made by standing quietly in a case. The kingdom fell. The jewel was stripped to its bones. The man who built both had believed that beauty of sufficient ambition outlasts the forces arranged against it. The record, as it stands, does not support him, but he is also the reason we are still saying his name.